All right, so just to recap what we did the other time, can anybody help us to recap what we did the other time? Just a brief highlight of the topics we covered. Quickly. Just unmute. Who is talking? And I hope you can hear me. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
So who can recap what we did the other time before we continue? No idea? Okay, so let me just recap myself. Maybe in the process of recapping, you might correct some of the issues you are having. I'm talking to Flourish. So what we actually did the other time was variables concepts in JavaScript. I told us that the term variable across all programming languages is used to describe a storage that holds values in programming or in the program. And I give us a practical example why learning variable is very important when learning any programming language. Now, just imagine you want to write a simple program where you need some values that are not keyword, that is, values that are not stored in the program. Let's say you want to build a calculator and you are going to need 3 different values. Let's say value 90, 20, and 30. And you know fully well that these values are not inbuilt value, but you make use of them while coding. And that is why the concept of variable is introduced in order to introduce external values into the program. So that when in the course of your programming, you need any of those values for performing any task, they can be called from a valid storage within the program. So that is the essence of variable across all programming languages. Now, I said in JavaScript, variable are storage which are used to store value or hold value in the program. And I said the syntax for declaring variable in JavaScript is for you to start by calling the keyword. So let me say I'm still using, I think I promised in this class that I'm going to use external JavaScript method because the method we used the other time was internal. Internal means you are writing your HTML codes and the JavaScript in the same file, but in different section. Where I said you have to start by declaring a script tag and then envelope all your JavaScript inside. This is internal. And the script tag should appear or should be added before the closing body tag of your HTML structure. But in this section, I am going to use the external method, which is the standard, which is the best practice. You are not supposed to have your JavaScript and your HTML code in the same page. It is not professional, just like the way we address it when we are working with CSS. Remember that we also have external CSS and internal CSS, including the inline CSS. Now, for JavaScript, it means that I have to create a different file here and call it JS, or I'll create a different folder inside the JS folder as my root folder and name it what? JS. Then I will now go inside the JS and create a file name, let's say js.js. So the extension, the file extension for JavaScript is .js, just like the way we have HTML as .html, CSS as .css. So whenever you are creating a JavaScript file, you have to end it with .js. And then the moment it recognizes the extension, you will see this JS in yellow color. So that is to say that this file is JS file. So once you click outside as usual, it will automatically create a different file. Okay, so all your JavaScript will be written here, while the HTML that they are communicating on will be in your HTML file. Now, just like the same concept we use in creating CSS external file. Whenever you are working with external file system, there is need for both of them to be connected. Now, how do we connect the JavaScript with the HTML structure? Just like we did in CSS, we connect from the HTML, not from the JavaScript. So I'll go back to my HTML file and then go to that section before the closing tag. The only difference is that we are opening script tag, but this time around we are using the one that have SROC, which represents the source, So let's see if we can wait for her for. So like I was saying, the difference between the first tag we used, which was script, and this one we want to use to connect our external JavaScript is the one that carried the source. The SROC represents source, which means this one has an attribute that can help you to describe the page, the JavaScript page or file URL. So once you click here, then all you need to do is to put the slash as usual, and then it will output all your root folder content. So from there, you navigate to JavaScript, and then you pick the Java script file. So with this, you have successfully connected both the HTML and the JavaScript. Now, just like what we did the other time, let's say we want to develop a simple program that can multiply two values. Let's say, for example, we want to perform a simple mathematical operation just to confirm that JavaScript can actually be used for arithmetic operation. Now, we have to go to my JavaScript file and then create my variable. Now, let me use comment here. So let's say variable. So this is, I told us that even in today's topic, we'll be working with most of those things we did. We will repeat almost all of them, but we'll be looking at a different topic. There's no way we can actually treat data type without referencing or making use of variables. So variable declaration in JS, variable declaration in JS. So I told us that variables are declared with keyword. The keyword can be, we have cost, you can use cost, you can also use let, you can use var. So these are the three keywords that are used to declare variable, which means to initiate variable into the program. To acknowledge the variable into the program in JavaScript, you can use any of these keywords. A keyword in JavaScript is an inbuilt word. That is, it is a name or word that have been used by the program to store important function. So now if I want to create a variable, so let me use comment to explain the task. So the task will be create JS variables that holds three different numbers. So I will say let's since the tag says three different variables that holds different number, I will say let A, comma, B, comma, C, and then I will end it, which means that you have just created three different empty container without assigning values into them. Now, by the time you now go to the next line, you can now start assigning value. Your statement is just like create a container A, create a container B, create container C, where A container should receive, let's say 90, you end it, where B container should receive maybe 40, you also end it. Then C container should receive maybe 80. So now you have just declared three different variables. So at this point here, you declare the empty container. At this point here, you started putting value inside. Now, if we are to view output the results in the front end, we don't preview it in JavaScript, just like the way we did not preview our CSS in the CSS file. You know, each time we want to view the impact of our CSS property, we usually go back to HTML, and then from HTML, we will now right click and select open with live server. So the same thing here. You don't output from JavaScript file. You output, that in other words, you render into the browser with HTML. You don't render into the browser directly from your JavaScript file. But you will notice that none of those values displays here. Why? Because I told us that in JavaScript, values are not automatically outputted until they are accompanied or until they are outputted with any of those methods. Now, we now talk about JavaScript output method, JavaScript output method, or function. We can as well call them functions. We can call them function. So where I mention alert function, where I mention alert function, and then I mention document dot write function, and then where I also mention a document dot get element. This one is the one that allows us to write inside the HTML file directly. Okay, so now let's assume that element by ID, and then we open the bracket. Okay, now, so let me quickly output with the alert. I said alert, we always display it, we always pop it up as an alert box, not to print it on the browser body. So if I say, for example, now alert, let's say A, alert variable A times variable B. So it's going to perform a simple calculation and output the value, which means that it should take 90 from variable A, multiply it with 40 in variable B, and then display the answer as a pop-up message. So if you come back to the front end, you can see that is already what displaying it. So let me refresh again. You can see that what this is the answer. But the advantage of this is that once you click OK, the value disappears. So I want to print it on the browser body. I want the user to be able to see it here. So it means that you can no longer use this very one. We have to use another display method. So, and that is, let's use a document dot write then I'll say value A times value B. So I want to know why it's tracking it. So let's see whether we'll still get a value. So if I go to the front end, you can see that it has printed it and is stable on the page. Now, I want to jump to the other method I use, which is printing in HTML elements. And I said, if you are printing the JavaScript result true, or you are using HTML element to render, to display JavaScript output to the users, then that method requires that there must be an HTML element, let's say p tag, with an ID. So that this is the one that require you coming to HTML, defining your ID. Now, remember I said you are not meant to put anything inside here, because if you put anything there, at the end of the day, JavaScript will overwrite it. So there's no point, because you only need this element to output the value you have stored in variable in JavaScript, because the method implies that you should write it in HTML element. That is why we came here to quickly create HTML element and supply no content, because we just need this HTML as container to help us display JavaScript content to the user. So from your JavaScript, since you have a HTML element with an ID, so you will now select it here. So that means we are using this method document dot get element by ID, open the bracket, then string. Now the name of that element, which is demo. Now I mentioned dot inner HTML, which is the variable that will be holding the HTML element. So this is just like HTML element in JavaScript that is holding that p tag. So we'll now supply the value we want to output through the p tag here. So we'll now say equals to
So where did you get this demo from?
Demo is the ID. Look at it here. The HTML element you are using to output the variable, one of the value in your JavaScript variable. Is that clear? So because of this method that we are using, that is why ID. This method say ID that get element, that is what select element in HTML by ID. That is why we came to HTML to create one element and give it an ID, so that in JavaScript, we will now reference that element that will be used to render any of this variable value to the user. So what we are indirectly doing is that this is just like empty container. Remember when you were learning HTML, we told you that whatever you have inside this place is the content. Hope you still remember. Is the content that will be outputted to user. But we left it empty because our intention is not to display the content with the HTML direct. Our intention is that there are some values that we have stored in variable in JavaScript that we only need the HTML element to help us output. So that is why we did not put anything here. So we'll now go to our JavaScript and use these attributes to collect the value from here and then come back to the HTML, pass it here. So that is what you are simply saying. So if I come here now, say, okay, which value do I want this one to output to the user? So from here, I will supply the variable name, which is what I can say. I want it to output this, the multiplication. The multiplication, I just want to express it so that it will look like a center. The multiplication of A and B is, okay, so now after this, I'll come outside here, I will concatenate, which is plus. So why I put the whole of this in a string, because they are not stored anywhere in my variable. So while I am trying to print the value in a variable, I also want to describe the results. So I will say plus, but I want space. So plus, I will create the space. Remember this, and then you now do plus again. It's part of what we did. Then plus, I will just call A times what? B. Then end it. So what you are simply saying is that it should get the elements, get HTML element that is ID demo, then store it, concatenate it with this HTML, that is the inner HTML that is storing, that is collecting the value from JavaScript variable, and I use the HTML p tag with this ID to display the result. So if I go to the front end now, let's go and check for our output. So if I come here, you see the result here. The multiplication of A and B is 3,600. Simple as that. Is that clear?
Okay, sir. The demo, I didn't know where the demo was coming from. I didn't put any demo when I was doing. Maybe that was why it was not displaying.
And that class was not.
I just write the demo, but I don't know how the demo came about. The thing was really distracting, so I now use another method.
You now use Wuru method. Wuru, even your conscience was already telling you that this method, Wuru to answer.
No, I use the one, that option that you gave. Now that is document equals to write, open and close bracket.
Yes, okay. I told you that very option should not be relied on because it's only good for debugging. So if you are learning JavaScript, learn to output your value with what? This very one. Because we are expected to add actions, interactivity to an existing HTML. Because that is the role of JavaScript for building web application and for adding interactivity to those HTML content. So if you are using document.write, those one does not in any way reference any HTML element that the result will be attached to. So that is why those ones are not reliable. You are to depend on this. That's why most of our work, I'm going to be using this method so that we can get used to it than wasting time to be explaining those ones that are only good for debugging. Hope that is clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we also talk about string variable outside the number variable. So where I told us that we could have, you can see that as I am writing JavaScript in its own file, I did not open the script. Don't go and open script. Oh. The reason why we open script then was because we were writing JavaScript directly inside HTML file. But in a situation whereby you have a different JavaScript file, you don't have to put it in script. You write your JavaScript directly because you are actually working directly from its own file. Is that point clear?
No, sir.
Now, you know that here, when we were writing our JavaScript the other time, what we did was this. I need to emphasize on it. You know, here we have to write like that A equals to, we have to write them inside this, right? We have to write them inside this script.
Yes.
Good. Now, if you check, now that I'm working with a external file, you will notice that I did not open any script. Did I open any script before writing all this file?
No, no, no.
Good, because this is JavaScript file. So you are not borrowing space in another file. That is the reason why. So the reason why you put them in script here, because that time you were nesting JavaScript inside HTML file.
HTML.
So for the HTML to recognize that these scripts are different from mine, that is why we use that tag script to envelope them. But now that you are writing them in JavaScript direct file, you don't need to envelope them in the script tag. Please take note of that so that you don't go and make mistake. So I just want to talk about string variable. String variable. So what does that actually mean? Let me see if I can convert this to comment. So I'm talking about a string variable, because I know I also talked about it the other time. JavaScript string variable. Now, what is a string? Though is part of data type that we want to describe. I think I should just go straight to data type because I am going to also explain it. So let me just go to data type. So let's say JS data type. So what do we mean by data type in programming generally? Because every programmer, as soon as you have learned variable concepts and how to create JavaScript file, the next thing to learn is data types. Obviously, we have been working with different data types, but not officially, addressing them. We only use them in the process of creating or declaring variable. But now you are about to learn them properly so that you know why you just call 90 without quoting it. So it's from this topic you will know the secret behind storing different data type in variable and the rules that need to be followed. So what is JavaScript data type? JavaScript data type has several or JavaScript has several data types that can be categorized into two main groups, such as primitive. So we have the first type of data type that can be called as what? Primitive data types. Okay, and then we also have another data type which is called the composites. composite. The composite or reference data types. So I'm going to start with the primitive data type. So the term primitive also means primary. So I can slash this and call it a primary also, primary. So when you refer to data type as primary, you are talking about the basic data type in programming, the one that cannot be avoided. The basis of programming value is the primitive data, because the composites, which are also called the secondary data type, most time they are deduced with the combination of the primary data types. Okay, so under the primary data type, we have string, we have strings, we have string, which simply mean text. So in programming, anytime the term string is used, it means text. Now, so the best way we are going to be explaining them is by relating them with variables. That is why I said, let me just quickly talk about them, because there is no way we are going to practicalize this data type without using variable example. That's the reason why I first of all make sure that we understand the variable concept. Okay, so now if I come here now and say, let's say example of JS string variable. So what it means is that a variable is described after the value, the type of value that is holding, which means that the reason why I call this variable integer variable, because I'm storing integer inside it. So when you say string variable, you are talking about variable that is storing text. So for example, if I want to develop an app that will require my name Prosper, okay, that will require my name Prosper, then I have to store that name in a string variable. So I will say my first name. So I'm going to use camel case. Now, when you are dealing with variable naming, you have to use camel case where two words are involved. For example, now, first name. It is not right that you type it like this. So it is seriously wrong for you to write. You can see that it has tracked that word. This is not the standard. And when you are creating variable, please, you can't create variable. You don't name variable using only number. So under variable naming standard or rules, you don't use number only. I cannot say number equals to this. It's not allowed. It's either I say number and text, which is allowed. So most time, if you are using string and if it happens to be two words, then you add underscore, and then the next name should be in capital letter. So this is what we call the camel case. We have the Pascal case. Okay, Pascal case is where all the letters are in capital letter. So camel case is when only from the second word, the first letter will be capital letter, while the rest will be small letter. But the first word all through will be small letter. So that is the standard and the most used case for naming variable. So I will say equals to, because I am storing text, which is a string, in a variable, I have to use what? Quote, either single or double, to hold it in the variable. So I will simply say Prosper. Now, remember the standard rule, you must always indicate that you have ended that line of code. Now, before you go to the next one, now I want to store my age. My age is equals to a number. So since my age is number, let's say 90, this is an integer. So I don't have to what? Quote it. So this is another type of JavaScript data type. We have string and then we have number. Under number, that is where you have integer and that is where you have float. Integer means a whole number. Like the 90 I have here is a whole number. Now, once it carries, for example, now, I can name this, I can say this is integer number. Why this is string, which also means what? Text. Now, let's assume that I create another one like, let's say height. Let's say I have a variable specifying my height. My height is equals to 2.5. So this is a floating number in programming. We call it what? Float number. That is why I told us that we have only two types of number. It's either a float number or an integer. They are both under what? Primitive. So the first primitive data type is string, which is text. The second one is number. Under number, that is where we have the float and the integer. Second, please. Okay, so now if I want to print using the HTML element to output a statement that says, my name is Prosper and I'm age, or let's say what, Prosper detail or Prosper biodata are, Prosper biodata are, Prosper 90 and this. So I have to go back to the HTML because I want to use HTML element to render those information. In other words, whenever I use the word to render, in other words, to display it to the users, because this is my back end. This is where I am writing my code. So there have to be the user application interface where they will be seeing whatever I am posting from the back end, which is the browser we are using to render all our results to the users. So now I will now come here. I'll say, okay, I want another p tag since I intend to use get as document.get element. So I will use another ID. This time around, I will just name it demo2 because I'm using ordinary demo to output the other time. So I'm using demo2. So I'll go back to my JavaScript. So to output all this, I will say document.get element by ID, the string demo2. Now, what do I want to do here? I will just say dot inner HTML, then equals to, so I'll bring in string here because I want to express it. I want to explain it. So I will say, Mr. Prosper biodata are, so I will just concatenate space as usual, plus, then space it, then plus, you now start calling the variable. So here I'll call this one, Control C, and come and put it here. Then I will now concatenate space. But I would like them to be in a block form, that is not to display in a straight line. I want name to display under it. So to do that, I will concatenate one of the HTML elements, which if I call now, you will understand it, which is this. I believe you still remember this. I believe you still remember break. Then I will now concatenate it. That means after displaying first name, break. After displaying first name, break. Then after breaking, you display the next value, which is age. Let me check how I type my age. So which is what? Age. Then after age, also break. After age, also break. So I'll put it here. After age, also break. Then after age, break. And then I think that is the last one. I will concatenate, what is it called? Height. I will concatenate height. So all this is for me not to display the answer meshed together. I just want to display it in a block form. Remember, we did inline in HTML and block. So you should know that inline is horizontal, while block is what? Vertical. So I will just put it here and then end my code. So if I go to the front end, you see all the values. Now, why Prosper did not come down? Because we did not add break here. So we ought to add break somewhere here. We need to add break here so that it will be separated from this whole word. So which means that I will just come here and say break, and also add it. I'll put the plus. So if I check the front end, Prosper has come down. So I believe it's clear to us. I need a response because I'm going to pause now. And then the remaining time is for us to complete this task as our classwork before we end this. Because the beginning part of JavaScript does not require rushing. Because once you get the foundation right in JavaScript, every other thing are very simple. Any question? Is there any? Hello?
Please, can you explain that one before we...
Your line is breaking. I should explain what? From where? You can see it again.
This last one that you explained now, that is the string test. Are you hearing me?
Yes, yeah.
You should please explain it one more time before we do the classwork.
Okay, so indirectly, are you saying that I should create another scenario, or I should explain this, or I should do another one, or different from this, but at least you involve this same process?
Do another one different from this.
Okay.
Do another one different from this.
Okay, so now let's assume that the task is that let's create product detail. This time around is not name, so let me use comment. Say, okay, develop an app that outputs product details to users. So now I will capture the product. I'm going to capture the product name. So I will say product underscore name is equals to string laptop. After this, I'm going to give it to you as an assignment, not classwork. So make sure you pay attention. Product underscore name laptop. I'll end it here. I want all to describe the product, the color, or sorry, the model. So I will say model is equals to HP. Model is equals to HP. Then I will also want to output the cost. So I can say cost equals to, cost is a number. So I'll just say cost is 9,000. So let's say the country. I'll just also capture the country. Country equals to is a string. So I'll put it inside quotation. String. Let's say what? Nigeria. Nigeria. Then I also end it. Now I want to print it. I'll go to my HTML. I'll go to my HTML and use it must not be p tag. It can be div so that you know that it's not only p tag can be used. It can be div, it can be h2. Then the only thing is that you should give it what? ID. So let's say what? Demo. So you can choose any HTML element you want to use to output it. So let this one be demo 3. So if I go back to my JavaScript now to output all these values to the user, just like the way we outputted all this. So what I'm going to simply do is to come here. I'll say, okay, to output products details with HTML elements, which is what? The dot inner. Hello? Hello, are we still here? Sorry. Are we still here? Let me try random. Mrs. Constant, are we still here? Let's see if you guys cannot hear me. Can you hear
The
me?
last button before the body. You link it.
Okay, later now.
Oh yeah.
Are we here? Are we here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if people just pray that I should time out so that you can have time to be discussing, Abby.
No, we are just discussing something.
Let me finish my own.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I was trying to explain so that in case we are writing our notes, we know what we are doing per line. So to output, I said here to output product detail with HTML element using inner HTML, okay, method. So what I'm going to simply do, like I did the other time, so pay attention because after this, you will take it as an assignment and then you should be able to replicate it. So this is just to solidify the variable concepts. So I will assume that by next class, nobody is having issue with variable concepts because we have used a lot of variables here. All these are variables. Now, I want to output all this. I want to display all these product detail to users. So I will simply say document dot get elements by ID. Then I will go back to my HTML to know the one I'm using to output, which is this one. That is demo 3. I'll simply type demo 3. Then I will concatenate the method inner HTML, then equals to. Now, I want to say something instead of just outputting the value. I want it to be outputted in form of a well-designed or described sentence. So that is why I want to bring in those information. That is what the product details are. Now, what I did here is to concatenate space. Now, in other words, after this, it should break. Instead of displaying everything on the same line, I want each of them to be displayed the way they are. That's the reason why I'm bringing the HTML break element, which we have already learned from HTML. So I will say, okay, since you are introducing HTML element, you have to wrap it as a string. That is why I am putting it inside this quotation. So before I will now do concatenate. So after this, that is after break, sorry, the network is misbehaving. Just allow us to finish this one. Now, I will call the product name. I'm calling this is the first value I want to display. So I'll put it here, product name. Okay, so let me just press enter and put another plus, then break again. I just want it to come down. I can as well write it on a straight line. Then after that, concatenate the model. The model is the next value should display. Then after that, you are breaking again. After that, you are breaking. You are breaking. After breaking, plus again. Now, after this, the next one we are outputting is the cost. So bring it here. After cost, you break again. You break. After cost, you break. So I think after the last one, we are not breaking, which is the country. Control C, Control V to paste. Then after this, we are not breaking again because that's the last one. So if I go to the front end, you see all the what? The product information outputted. I believe it's clear. Flourish, Miss Costa, is it?
Yes, sir. Very clear.
Okay. So,
Yes.
so Mrs. Costa, please let me hear from you also. Did you understand what I've done so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, but I have question when you are done.
True. That's your question now. Ask your question, ma.
So,
Okay.
hello?
I can hear you, ma.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Flourish, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, I think his network is acting up again.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I can hear you.
Okay, sir, please, is that our assignment? I would like to show you my own because I'm having issue so that you can correct me to enable me do this particular one.
Okay. Okay. So I will end this section and then switch to phone to attend to assignments. But I want to see if I can quickly convert it. Let me see if I can. I think I've enabled it. So go ahead and share your screen now. Go ahead and share your screen.
Okay. I did not see where to share.
Recording in progress.